The state of well-being is the ultimate goal of culture change. Well-being is the achievement of a contented state for everyone at Sunnyside, such as the residents, their families and friends, all care partner teams, volunteers, and the overall healthcare team. There are 7 domains of well-being, namely identity, growth, autonomy, security, connectedness, meaning, and joy. Every member of the healthcare team is responsible to fully support residents, their families and friends, and each other, meaning the healthcare team members, in achieving a contented state, also known as well-being. This video presentation will briefly describe each domain of well-being and the various ways representative staff from each care team shares their ideas and manner of supporting residents to achieve well-being. In addition to this presentation, you are all encouraged to learn more, read more, and know more about the domains of well-being, Eden philosophy, and culture change for a more thorough understanding. The ultimate goal of culture change is well-being for all care partners, meaning residents, family members, their friends, healthcare team, and volunteers, the organization, and ultimately the community. Well-being requires us to focus on the strengths, possibilities, dreams, and goals of each resident. In doing so, we define quality of life in terms of what each individual can do, rather than limitations and what they have to offer their communities. Well-being can be simply defined as a contented state of being. Contentment state for everyone at Sunnyside. According to the dictionary, contentment means being gratified, pleased, happy, or satisfied with what one is or has, not wanting more or anything else. Through a grant-funded collaborative effort, the Eden Alternative brought together a task force of culture change experts in 2004 and identified 7 primary domains of well-being, namely identity, growth, autonomy, security, connectedness, meaning, and joy. We acknowledge that each of you is a part of this journey, and therefore it is very important for you to know the 7 domains. Every member of the healthcare team is responsible to fully support and assist residents, their families and friends, and each other, the healthcare team members, in achieving a contented state, also known as well-being. Identity is all about knowing each resident, their families, and each other, meaning co-staff, our co-partners, members of the healthcare team, well. In high school terms, this can mean being Mr. or Miss Popular, when everyone just knows who the person is. Being well-known is a hallmark value of the Eden Alternative. Knowing our residents well means knowing how to partner with them in care, so that the care we provide is catered to their individual needs. So how can we assist residents to attain identity for them to be well known? My starting point would be to know my resident well and deeper. So the question for me as I care for my resident is, how do I get to know my resident? How do I get to know them more? Also, not only the residents that I'm looking after, but all the other residents at Sunnyside. I will try to get to know them too. Also, I'm going to make myself known to my residents. Knowing them well is also knowing what's important to them, to their families, or even what's important to my co-staff. By establishing relationships with my residents, their families. And so, the question I would have for myself when it comes to knowing my resident and the other people working here at Sunnyside would be, what information do I need in order for me to get to know a person? If I were to describe myself to someone in our first meeting, what would I want that person to know about me? What information is she or he going to need? As part of the care team, my starting point in getting to know my resident is to read their information, such as from the My Plan, their binders, the record of care, the mini care plan, the My Story. Talk to family members about the resident with the intention of getting to know the person more. talk to the resident directly, and take the time to get to know each other. Our residents need to know us too, as I've said, for them to feel comfortable with us, especially as we assist them with the more intimate aspects of their daily routine. Growth. Regardless our age or circumstances, residents and their care partners should have every opportunity to learn and grow. Our focus is on growth and not decline or disability. Our focus is on the strengths and abilities of the resident and on what they are unable to do. Our mantra is, now that this person is here, what is he or she able to contribute to this community? So how can we help a resident attain growth? One thing we can do is to know the resident's reason for being at Sunnyside. What is the reason for them moving to Sunnyside? What is the goal now that they are in long-term care? Is it about safety, mobility, regaining physical strength, nutrition, having companions, knowing more friends? Also, we can promote growth by knowing their capabilities. What is it that they are capable of doing now, and how do I support the remaining strengths and abilities? Also, by knowing my residents' interests. What are the things that they love doing that they still would like to continue doing while at Sunnyside? By knowing their wishes and dreams. Is there anything that they always wanted to learn or do? Is it something that we can support at Sunnyside? As for myself as a staff and care partner, I will also be mindful of the mission and vision of Sunnyside. What can I do to contribute to the fulfillment of the mission and vision of Sunnyside? I think it makes our resident feel great to be able to finally do something or even eat something they have been longing for. Others may just even would like to walk again. I remember in one of my Sunny walks, I was going up and down the hallways, and one of the male residents signaled to me for me to look at him, and once I did that, he stood up, walked around his room, and danced. Best times for me. In another occasion, when I went for my Sunny walks, there's this lady resident who showed me and two other staff members an artwork that she made. She said they, and I'm assuming those are our care partners, gave me a bunch of colored pens and pencils and did what I can with it, and here it is, and she showed us her artwork. It was a lovely piece of artwork indeed, and she's very happy about it. Simply put, to be autonomous is to be one's own person, to be respected, to decide for oneself, to be able to have choices and make decisions. The concept in caring here at Sunnyside is that of care partnership. In care partnership, care is not a one-way street, but a combined undertaking between a resident, their families, and the care partner teams. Thus, we will create opportunities for residents and care partners alike to be able to give as well as receive care. So how can we assist residents to attain autonomy or to be able to achieve autonomy? We will ensure that the resident is involved in daily decisions regarding their care. We will strive to inform residents that they have a choice or that there is an option available to them. So one of the questions we can probably ask ourselves is, how can I encourage residents to make decisions? How can I help provide options that are safe? Another way we can help residents attain autonomy is to support their decisions. I remember one time when a resident decided to continue eating through his mouth even when he was having a hard time and was choking, and he refused the insertion of a feeding tube. And so what we did was to help him eat through his mouth even if it was very difficult for him. Another way we can promote or help them achieve autonomy is for us to seek opportunities to enable them to give care to another person. Giving care is them giving a piece of their cookie or a banana or going to another resident and help them out either by helping them eat or looking for their room, situations like that. And lastly, but not of course the least, is that recognizing that the resident is our care partner or our partner in care. I will not force or coerce my resident to anything that he or she is unwilling to do, and I will respect their decision and try at another time. Every resident should be able to express themselves freely, including frustration and anger, without fear of reprisal. Security means that each resident's privacy is respected and their dignity is maintained. We will make sure that our commitment to safety doesn't overstep on any resident's rights and choices. To take away all risk and chances to make mistakes is to take away the right to be human. Maximizing safety creates insecurity. While safety is important, residents must be able to live at risk and enjoy freedom, such as no use of restraints. So how can I assist residents in order for them to feel secured? Security is building trust with each other. So the question for me here is, how can I build trust with residents, their families, and with the people that I'm working with? Another way of making a person feel secured is being a friend to them. So the question for me here is, how can I be a friend? When situations are stressful, I will be calm, supportive, and respectful. Ask yourself the question, how can I promote a sense of calmness in stressful situations? There are times when work may be left undone, not intentionally, but there are times when situations are really busy and it's always the resident first, and so therefore we communicate with the other people that we are working with so that the situation is handled in a very respectful manner. I will be approachable and open. The question for each of us in this domain is, how can I create an atmosphere of openness where a resident or a family or even a staff can express their feelings without fear of judgment? I will uphold privacy and dignity and show respect to the residents and their families and my co-staff. I will ensure the safety of my residents. I will work safely and adhere to safe work practices all the time. Connectedness is about having a meaningful and even deep relationship with residents, their families, and each other as staff members at Sunnyside. One way to facilitate deep and meaningful relationship is through care partnership consistency, commonly known as permanent staffing or consistent staffing. On February 8, 2017, after much discussions and planning, we started consistent staffing of our nursing team, especially the continuing care assistants, referred to as nursing care partners. Following that, we organized the whole Sunnyside staff and management team into neighborhood teams, namely Riverview, Prayerland, and Diefenbaker teams. These teams comprise a mix of staff from laundry, maintenance, housekeeping, recreation, dietary, and management, and of course, nursing. It is noteworthy to mention that the most important member of these teams is the resident and their families. Also, with the adaptation of Eden Alternative into Sunnyside, we changed our organizational structure by putting residents first and at the center. This concept stipulates that it is no longer what's best for me as a staff. Rather, it is now for the benefit of residents. It is all about resident and person-centered care. It is all about what's best for the residents so that life here at Sunnyside will be worth living. So then, how can we assist residents to be able to attain connectedness? How do we connect with them? First, I'll be welcoming and hospitable to new residents, their families, and even to new staff or the visitors. I will be friendly and loving and compassionate and kind to my residents and their families and to my co-staff members. I will help my residents and their families to have friends at Sunnyside. Another way I can establish connection is that I will intentionally spend time with residents apart from my daily task, in laundry, in housekeeping, in maintenance, in recreation, dietary, in the offices, and as a nursing care partner. I will do all I can to help alleviate feelings of loneliness. I will be an active member of the neighborhood teams and pledge to work cohesively with each other. I will endeavor to establish a meaningful and even deep relationship with everyone at Sunnyside, like families do. The rhythm of daily life can become repetitive and numbing, holds no meaning, and inspires little motivation. It can be boring. There are days when it just feels like we are ready for something different, something out of the usual, something exciting even. And I think it's the same way all the way through out there with all of you. And how do we know when someone is at this point? It is only possible through the caring relationships we generate with each other and by knowing one another well. A person-directed approach infuses meaning into every corner, every act, and every relationship. So how can we assist residents so that it's a meaningful life at Sunnyside? First is we can find out more about the resident as to what makes life meaningful for them. We strive to know what makes each day exciting for the resident. Let's find out what they look forward to each day. Find out what makes the residents' day great. Other ways that it will be a meaningful day for the residents is to honor their rituals or their ways of doing things, seeking ways to infuse variety in daily life so that it's not the same thing over and over again each day. Also by doing all we can to help with helplessness. And for us to be spontaneous, to look for opportunities to bring joy, fun, and laughter every single day. Moments of joy often catch us by surprise. These joyful moments cannot be scheduled, structured, or commanded into existence. It can only emerge from the moment. No one can say, I'm going to experience joy at 2:30 this afternoon. The best soil for joyful moments is always found in places where relationships are deep, rich, and intensely meaningful. It is through the relationships we have with one another that we can discover ways to recognize and celebrate moments of joy when it occurs. So how can I assist the residents? How can I bring joy to them? I'll find out what brings joy to them is the starting point, of course. Striving to determine my residents' simple pleasure. Now, what is a simple pleasure? A simple pleasure is a simple thing that brings a smile to a person. And this is even personal because your simple pleasure may not be my simple pleasure. An example for this is when we dig into our pockets right after it comes out from the laundry and we find a $20 bill, or even just the smell of coffee in the morning maybe, or warm breeze coming from outside, fresh air, the sound of birds chirping. Those are examples of simple pleasure. Being joyful or bringing happiness is doing my share of bringing joy, peace, and harmony to Sunnyside. We say to ourselves, I will be a part of a fun-filled, enjoyable, and productive workplace. I will be joyful and happy in my day as I work with my residents, with their family and friends, and with my co-staff. Spontaneity is like there's a song playing on the radio and this resident standing close by. We know that she loves to sing and dance, and so the staff stood up from her chair, held the resident's arms, and before you know it, they were both singing and dancing. Spontaneity is also when we see a resident sitting on their chair, they're reading a newspaper, and then we go ahead and join them and look at that newspaper and start talking about what's in there. Or when we're passing by a resident who we know that loves to do household chores and we're pushing a clothes bin, and we invite that resident to help us push that clothes bin back to where it's supposed to be. Those are examples of spontaneity.